everyone, and welcome to today's Cybersecurity Snippet, where I'm joined with Dan and Eric from Siemens Digital Industries. Today we're going to talk about cybersecurity in the process industry. So guys, cybersecurity, super important topic and a super hot topic at the moment. What has your experience been so far with cybersecurity, especially in the process industries?
Good morning, Jasmine. I think one major challenge that I would look at from a cyber perspective is around that interoperability and connectivity piece. We've got multiple legacy systems out there, we've got multiple systems with multiple vendors on it, and that can create a massive challenge for our customers.
What about yourself, Dan? How are you experiencing that?
Yeah, from my side, it's there's a lot of new regulations coming out. So EU CRA, for example, NIS2 directive, these are coming forward, and we're starting to get customers talking to us about what does this actually mean for me, and how do I adapt my existing system or move with my new system to be compliant with these regulations.
I'd agree with you that I think standards is a really interesting topic and a really important one at the moment, but you really need to do your homework, don't you? You can see a lot of letters and a lot of numbers. How about standards in your experiences? What are standards that we need to be looking at, and what are the important ones for our process customers?
Well, yeah, as Dan alluded to, we talk about NIS2, we talk about 62443. So we tend to adopt IEC 62443. It's got a great structure, it's got a great framework for us and our customers to utilise and work towards, to give them the greatest opportunity of minimising any cyber risk to their facility, to their industrial automation systems.
Yeah, and 62443 is the standard we talk about a lot, but there is a wealth of information out there as well. So we work in the process industries a lot, and that involves coma sites, for example. And one operational guidance note that's of particular note is OG86, which is something that the HSE inspectors are being issued with, and indeed the operators of coma sites are being issued with as well. So there's a wealth of information out there. But ultimately, if you look at that OG86 guidance note, a lot of that is taken directly from 62443. So I guess all roads lead to 62443 ultimately.
Yeah, I think it's definitely clear that we need to do our homework, and we need to make sure that we're looking at 62443. Challenge that you mentioned, Eric, is interoperability in data. How are you experiencing that, and how are customers how have they got to face that, and what have they got to be aware of when it's looking at cybersecurity?
Yes, what we say in all industries, not just the process industry really, is that people need to get access to that data, whether it's on site, whether it's remote login for service requests, whether it's an enterprise network. We need to ensure that people can access that data, but not at all costs. Right, that's the clear thing here, is that you don't just access the data without meeting the cybersecurity requirements, and that's where 62443 and NIS2 comes into the equation really.
So what would you tell a customer in terms of getting their data out of there? Should they be afraid, or should they go ahead and do it? How can they do that carefully?
I think they've got to do it. The data is absolute gold to them, but they've got to do it in, following the correct guidelines, working with companies like Siemens to look at how we can help them deliver a cyber secure network.
And it actually ties into a challenge that we see quite a lot as well, which is we have a lot of legacy systems in the UK, so we talk a lot about the standards and everything like that. These are really easy to think about when you've got a new Greenfield installation. Where you've got a legacy system, sometimes you are forced into making, say, pragmatic decisions. So I hear a lot from customers around, we've air-gapped the system. And you go, okay, I can understand why you've done that. That's a means of mitigating risk. But what happens when you want to put new software on there, for example, and then going to Eric's pointers, do you just create like an island of automation or multiple islands of automation where you can't extract the data that you need from it as well? So that's another challenge that we do come across quite regularly.
I think it's really interesting that cybersecurity can be applied, and is meant to be applied, from Brownfield and Greenfield. So we've sort of got two sides of it, but it can be applied just in different ways, and we're still looking at 62443, aren't there? What would you say is a best practice then? How have you been working with your customers in order to become more cyber secure and sort of take them on that journey and start that off?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jasmine, because you look at things like defence in depth, right? So it's not just doing that sensor level, it's taking it up to networks, it's taking it up to enterprise. But I think the three fundamental pieces from my perspective are technology, people and processes. We need all those three things aligned and together. So if we look at the MMIC, the Medicines Manufacturing Innovation Centre, as an example, the first thing we did there was to work with them to do the policies and procedures and make sure that all the foundations were right and correct before we even looked at the technology. So we need the people and the processes to be able to get that technology piece correct to follow it up.
Definitely. I think that for a Greenfield site, the MMIC is a perfect use case of how we've applied cybersecurity from the ground up. Dan, you've got a bit more experience on Brownfield?
So yeah, going back to what I was mentioning from a legacy systems point of view, I think it's tempting, as I've said, to just go, well, we've got an older system, we can't do this. And actually, our message would be that the standards really are there for brownfield sites as well, as you mentioned before. And it's around mitigation of risk. So applying the correct policies and procedures, again, that people topic as well, to ensure that you can essentially have your cake and eat it when it comes to these legacy systems.
And I think on the back of that, the majority of installations we do are brownfield on existing facilities. You know, in a perfect world, you've got a clean slate and you can do the greenfield, and that's much easier. Doing it with older legacy systems can be the challenge, but it doesn't mean that we don't do it.
I think once we start picking apart 62443, we'll obviously automatically look at the technology, but as you mentioned, the people and the processes is just as important, and that really helps us bring us along that way, along that cybersecurity journey. Really interesting conversation and really interesting points from the process industries. What would you say your one key takeaway is for customers when they're looking at cybersecurity is?
I think from my perspective is don't be afraid of it and don't walk away from it. It's a necessity, and we're here to help you go along that journey. That's a plain and simple fact from our side.
Yeah, so the main thing from my side is that it's not just about the technology, it's about the people and processes as well. They are equally as important.
Great, thanks both for the conversation. I think definitely 62443 is where we're going to be looking. Technology, people and processes, keep that in mind.